There's a saying by Helen Keller that goes, "Alone, we could do so little. Together, we can do so much." If you think you can run, operate, and grow your business all by yourself, then congratulations. You are the newest superhero. But seriously, the most successful businesses know that they can't be everything to everyone. So what do? They find other businesses that complement them. Businesses that fill in the gaps, expand their reach, and help them to open new doors. In today's episode, we're talking about the competitive advantage, but not in the way that most people talk about it. Because this isn't an episode where I'm going to talk to you about crushing the competition. I want you to collaborate with them. That's right. When your competition becomes your ally, let's talk about coopetition. That's a real term, entrepreneurs, and it's a real game changer. Welcome to In My Business, the show where I keep it real about launching and growing a business while juggling family, relationships, community, and everything else in between. I want to pull back the curtain and try to make the chaos make sense. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Allen Smith. I'm a business owner, I'm a veteran, a wife, a mom, and a proud member of the I Had to Figure It Out the Hard Way Club. This show is for anyone standing at the edge of entrepreneurship asking, can I really do this? I'm here to tell you, yes, you can. But let's talk about it first. Coopetition is when competing businesses decide to collaborate for a mutual benefit. It might sound counterintuitive at first, but stick with me. You know, I've learned so much from working with businesses over these last few years. And the biggest barrier to coopetition, it's not logistics, it's not legal agreements, it's not even trust issues. It's our mindset. We're conditioned to think that business is a battlefield. Take market share, protect your territory, don't show weakness. All that alpha predator stuff looks good in movies, but it actually makes you exhausted and paranoid in real life. We have so many other things to worry about, and I'm going to be honest, it's not one of the things that I want to worry about. But what if I told you that some of the most successful businesses treat their industry like an ecosystem and not a battlefield? Think about this. When Apple partnered with Microsoft in the late 90s, Steve Jobs didn't call it a surrender. He called it a strategy. When your local bars team up for a bar crawl event, they're not cannibalizing each other. They're growing the entire bar culture in their area. The mindset shift is this. Stop asking, how do I beat them? And start asking, how do we all win? So let me tell you a story. One night, I'm at a networking event, minding my own business, working the room like we all do at these events. And there he is, my competition. We offer the same services. We have the same general market. We're in the same city. And we've been circling around each other for months. It's just exchanging pleasantries, never really talking about anything substantial, but very cordial with one another. But that night, we ended up at the bar waiting for drinks. And somehow, the conversation just started flowing. We didn't exchange business cards. We didn't do the elevator pitches. We just started talking. It turns out we were both dealing with the exact same problem. Clients who wanted services outside of our wheelhouse, but we hated turning them away because that was missed revenue. Here's the kicker. His outside of the wheelhouse was my specialty. And my overflow, it was a perfect fit for what he did best. By the end of that week, we had the framework for what became one of the most profitable partnerships I've ever had. And not just profitable in terms of money, but in terms of reducing stress, clients being satisfied, and honestly, my quality of life. We get along so well. And when people see us together, they know that we're a partnership. Let me be clear. I'm not saying every competitor is a potential partner, because they're not. I've seen people try to force coopetition where it doesn't belong, and it gets messy. When I first opened that print shop, I visited all of the print shops in my immediate area, and there were a lot. And I went in and I introduced myself as the newest printer in town. I told them that I was looking to build a relationship and potentially work with them. But here's the thing. I knew that I needed to start to build my partnerships early. What if my printer went out? What if someone came in with a project that I couldn't complete on time? What if I didn't offer the services that they needed? I wanted to keep my referrals local and, if possible, offer trade rates between both of our businesses. I understood that this would take time, which is why I went in to establish the relationship first. But here's what happened. Most of the places that I visited said hello back. And well, that was pretty much it. When I asked what specialized services they offered, some directed me to the website, which I had already checked out before I went there. But others just responded, we do a lot. And this is a true story. They weren't interested in connecting with me, and I wasn't going to force it any more than I already had. But not all was lost. Out of the 11 places I visited, 2 were interested in connecting with me. Now, you might be saying just 2, but I'm saying 2 were interested in carrying the conversation further. It was 1. The second one, that's the person that I met at the networking event. So just because they weren't willing to connect with me initially, it doesn't mean that all was lost. I still ended up developing that relationship with that other person. So those 2 printers continue to be my power partners in print. My printer has gone down. A customer has come in with a project that I just could not produce. All of these things have happened. And when they have, I didn't panic because I was prepared. Understanding that I could not run my business without the help of others in my same industry was so important. And I am learning every day. And I'm so fortunate to have other printers that can pour into me, and I only hope that I'm able to return that favor. Now let's move into when this works and when it doesn't. Let me give you some examples. Coopetition should work for you when 1, you're regularly turning away work that's not quite your thing. 2, if you're at capacity but you hate disappointing potential clients. 3, if you have complementary strengths. Like if you're great at strategy and they're great at execution. 4, If you serve similar markets, but with different approaches or specializations, like in the instance that I had, we were turning customers away, but that it just happened so beautifully that the thing that he specialized in was the thing that I was turning customers away for, and vice versa. And then five, and you both value quality over quick wins. Quality is really important because if you want to partner with someone and they can't provide the level of service or the level of product or outcome that you would provide, then that's a problem. So let me tell you when it doesn't work. It doesn't work when one person sees it as a charity rather than a mutual benefit. If that person isn't providing you with just as much as you're providing them, there has to be mutuality in this. Can't just be one-sided. Or two, if your business models are shockingly identical. And it doesn't work when three, there's a significant quality gap between what you deliver. Four, if either party has a track record of burning bridges. This is so important. If that person has a history of being inconsistent or non-committal, and you know this, then maybe that's someone that you shouldn't consider to enter into coopetition with. It just won't work out in the end. And finally, if you're in a market where clients expect exclusivity, it doesn't work because clients want to work with you. If they have to work with someone else, then that's not going to work for them. And you want to do what's best for the client. So either you find someone they're comfortable with, or maybe you are still the person that they work with, and maybe you use another vendor for the service, but they don't touch your customer. And, I have learned this the hard way. I tried once to partner with someone whose approach to customer service, it wasn't mine. And they were cutting corners, they were over-promising, under-delivering. The partnership did not last long. And before I realized, their problems were becoming my problems. And there was a lesson in that, because coopetition should amplify who you are. If you're both committed to excellence, it amplifies the commitment to excellence. If one of you has questionable practices, then it will amplify that too. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like day to day. Because the theory is nice, but the implementation, that's where some people get stuck. The first thing in implementing this is I recommend that you start so small. The partnership that I mentioned earlier started with me giving them one job, one project from one client. And this was a project that I could have fulfilled in my shop very quickly. But I needed to make sure that he was also able to perform that way. And the quality was there and the communication was there. So I gave him a project that I could have completed, but I needed to test the waters first. And I know he did the same thing for me. The second project and the third project, very similar. One client, one project, not multiple. And they were things that if something happened, if the quality wasn't there, I would be able to react to make sure that the customer's experience was seamless. And after doing that for a while, back and forth, we were doing it for each other. We started to build that trust and that comfort level. And we eventually got to a point where I could send him things that I could not produce in my shop. And he was able to do the same thing for me. All right. So start small, really small. Don't just jump into it because you still have to build that trust. Next is communication is everything. It really is. And I don't just mean being polite. I mean being ridiculously clear about your expectations, your boundaries, and what success will look like for both of you. Here's a conversation that I had with a potential partner. I told him I work with clients who value service, they value quality, and they love timely communication. If you typically don't prioritize projects until the last minute or are not communicating on where you are in the process, then we're probably not going to be a good fit for one another. Was it direct? Yes. Was it necessary? Absolutely. The right partner will appreciate that clarity. The wrong partner will get defensive or offended. Either way, you learn what you need to know. And if you will be working with this person, then they absolutely need to be able to handle that directness, just as they're able to handle that politeness. Because if you're building a partnership, then chances are there will be a point where you'll be polite. There also will be a point where you'll be very upfront and frank. And vice versa. You also have to be able to handle that on the other side. Now, I'm going to pause here to share a quick message on how you can become a sponsor to this great show. I'll be right back. Hey, entrepreneurs. You know what fuels great content? Amazing coffee or tea. And you could be the hero behind my next caffeinated breakthrough. If you want to power this podcast while getting your brand highlighted to our awesome community, let's team up. Sponsor my coffee and tea habit, and you'll get a business highlight during the show and in my blogs for the week. It's advertising, but way more fun and personal. Because let's be honest, behind every great podcast episode is someone who believed in caffeine. And hopefully that someone could be you. Are you ready to fuel the show? Reach out by visiting my website at drtiffscommunity.com and clicking on that sponsor button. Let's brew up something amazing together. Welcome back. Now I know what some of you may be thinking, or the questions that you may be asking. What if they steal my clients? But here's the truth. If your only competitive advantage is hoarding information, you don't have a competitive advantage. You have a problem. Strong businesses attract clients through value, not through secrecy. And if they steal your clients, that's a risk you are absolutely going to have to take. If they do, then that ends the relationship between you and them. And sadly, that ends the relationship with you and your client. That's unfortunate. But you may have to go through that in order to find the right fit, the right partners that will work for you and your business. Here's another question you may be asking. What if they copy my processes? I'll say this to that. Good processes can be replicated. They can. But relationships can't. Focus on building something that can't be copied. Trust, reputation, and a genuine connection. And some of you may be asking, what if the partnership goes wrong? There's a very real possibility it might. But here's what I've learned. The risk of staying isolated often outweighs the risk of strategic collaboration. Start small, build trust gradually, and always have clear agreements. If I could go back and tell myself some things about coopetition before I figured it out through trial and error, here's what I say to myself. Your reputation travels with your referrals. Because when you send someone to a partner, you're essentially co-signing their work. Choose partners whose quality standards match yours, even if their style is different. I would also tell myself to document everything. Handshakes are good, but get the stuff in writing. Some of my best partnerships have started with a simple email. Another thing I would tell myself is that it's okay to outgrow partnerships. Businesses will evolve just as you will evolve. And what may have made sense a couple years ago may not make sense to you right now. The key is to have honest conversations before things get weird. Here's something no one ever shared with me about coopetition. And that's the benefits go way beyond just client referrals and shared resources. One, you learn faster. When you're connected to other business owners in your space, you see what's working for them before your competitors do. You are connected and trading information back and forth because you are invested in one another to be successful. Second, you stress less. When I know that I have trusted partners to refer overflow to, I am at ease. I can focus on my sweet spots instead of trying to be everything to everyone. We all know that if you're trying to be everything to everyone, then you're not being anything to anyone. That alone has improved both my quality of work and my mental health. Third, your clients get better outcomes. This may be the biggest one. When a client needs something outside of my expertise, I don't have to fake it or wing it. I can connect them with someone who genuinely excels in that area. I have better client outcomes, which lead to better referrals and which enhances my reputation. It enhances my service. It enhances my business. And last, you build industry relationships that matter. The business owner that I mentioned earlier, we've collaborated on projects that neither one of us could have landed by ourselves. We've shared resources during busy periods. That's not just business partnership. That's professional insurance. So here's your homework. And I'm being serious about this. I'm giving you homework. Pick one business that you currently see as competition. Just one. Reach out with something like this. Hey, Joe, I've been thinking about how our business complement each other in some pretty interesting ways. Would you mind grabbing a coffee with me and exploring some ideas maybe next week or so? No agenda. I'm just curious to hear your perspective on how we can partner to create stronger services. No big partnership proposal, no formal anything, just a conversation between two people who understand the same market challenges. Will every conversation lead to a partnership? No. You heard the story that I said earlier when I visited all of those people and only one of them ended up being interested in a connection and the other months down the line. Every conversation will not lead to a partnership, and that's okay. Some people aren't ready for this kind of thinking. And some personalities just don't mesh. Some business models don't align. But the ones that do work, they can transform how you operate. Let me say this. Running a business is hard enough without trying to do everything yourself. And it's definitely hard enough without treating every other business owner in your space like they're the enemy. I want you to be a successful business owner. And some of the most successful business owners that I know have figured out that competition and collaboration aren't opposites. They're tools. Sometimes you compete, sometimes you collaborate. And you should know when to use which tool. And here's what I know for sure. There's enough business out there for all of us to succeed. The question is whether you want to fight for scraps or work together to make the whole pie. That competitor that you've been side-eyeing, they just might be the key to your next level of growth. But you'll never know if you don't have that conversation. Go ahead and follow me at drtiffscommunity.com. I can also be found on Substack. I share articles there that complement the podcast episodes. You can also find me on Meta. You can find me on IG. And you can look me up anywhere that you listen to podcasts by searching In My Business. But hey, I look forward to hearing from you. And I would love to hear your success stories. Let me know what you're doing that's working. Until then, entrepreneurs. Thanks for being in my business. If this episode made you nod, think, or resonated with you in any way, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget, leave me a review, share some questions, and come back next week. We've got more to talk about.